That's all I got, man.
Well,
That was fun.
Yeah.
that was fun. We got another 25 minutes. So, we can do another subject, or we can keep having final thoughts. I do think we need to do some closing thoughts on this.
Sure.
Trevor, you were too quiet. What did you think?
I think I'm kind of open-minded about it. You know, going into this, I really, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah. It is. It is hard to say.
I have not seen anything that would make me question the Earth as round model. I'll say that. I'm a little less open-minded than I was before. I'll put it that way.
Oh, you're doubling down.
I might be. Not
Nice.
entirely. I'm not saying this is definitively, like I'm definitively right, because I'm always hesitant to do that as a rule, but
Yeah.
I'm less persuaded that it's plausible than I was. Because here's my thing. I saw a bunch of stuff that basically presented a competing hypothesis, which is fine. But like we've talked about before, if you're going to sit there and make a competing hypothesis, you can, but you got to show why one is impossible and the other one is. Now, to the last video's credit, it attempted to do that. It did attempt to show how the round Earth was impossible, which is where you need to start. So it was starting in the right place. The problem is it had a whole bunch of bad premises. The idea that we don't make adjustments to our 24-hour clock. We do. That nukes their entire claim right there, regardless of what even is causing the clock to change. Because regardless of whether it's the leap second or the elliptical orbit, it doesn't really matter. Because if you have a changing clock, you can't prove this idea that the round Earth or the round Earth requires a perfectly spherical orbit. If you've got a changing clock anyway, it still has to, and they're saying that the round Earth exists within that model, well, then you have to explain how that's impossible. But anyway, the point is, at least methodologically speaking, the video was starting in the right place. You have to start from the idea that, okay, we have to make the round Earth seem stupid. Like completely implausible. And then after you've tore down the idea, then you present your competing theory. I think you do. I think you have to expect, because here's the thing, you're dealing with the institution, as it were. You're dealing with the traditional view. And so you have to start, people are going to have that, they're going to default to an authority bias. You know, because the institutions say this, because I am a working person who has a job for a living and has no desire to be on YouTube and argue about this stuff when they barely know what they're talking about. Right. I am going to assume that the authoritative source is right.
Yeah.
And so you are
your position, right?
No, I'm not assuming that they're right because they're the authoritative source. I'm saying everything I've seen is dumb and based on bad presuppositions, so I don't believe it. But
okay. Yeah, I agree. Flat earthers are dumb.
I don't know if they're dumb. I think that we've been lied to.
Globe earthers are dumb.
Well, I mean, yes, everybody's an idiot. I'm an idiot. You're an idiot. Let's just, there's no end to the stupidity. I mean, that's true. No, I don't think that flat earthers are dumb. I think that we've been lied to, especially so much over the last few years. And I think COVID was a very dramatic example of what happens when you let the institutions just, when you default to the institutions all the time, they can become tyrannical. And I think everybody's gotten to this point where, oh, crud, these people are clearly lying. They clearly have their own agenda. What else are they lying about? And I think that's brought people to a place where they're calling into question everything, which they should.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't, challenge a consensus just because it's a consensus. Like there has to be specific reasons why you don't like it. The round Earth theory, and this is something I read. I believe it was in the book Darwin's Day in America. But I read that the whole idea that the church believed that the earth was flat isn't even true. Like, that is propaganda that came out from the French Revolution. When Robespierre and those clowns were trying to trash the church, they came up with these ideas like the church believed the earth was flat. And Columbus challenged it. Like the Jacobins, I don't know if it was the Jacobins. Might have been the Jacobins. But Robespierre and the guys leading the French Revolution, they were the ones pushing this kind of stuff, and they did it to make the church look stupid because they were trying to prop up this cult of reason. So a lot of the stuff that we believe, like Columbus discovering America and everybody believing the earth was flat, that's not even true. That's a result of French propaganda from the 1700s. That was a result of that war. So, and as far as like the earth being round, the Greeks thought it was round. They had those experiments that we were talking about earlier with the sun and the moon, measuring the shadows and guessing the diameter. Regardless of whether that's right or wrong, they thought the earth was round.
Yeah.
That didn't just spring up in the 1950s because of the dad blame communists taking over. People have thought, or the idea that, what am I even trying to say? It's not that people started pushing a round earth recently. It's been thought for forever. And it's a debate back and forth for forever. It's been going on for forever.
I don't know. I've seen...
Well, that's a historical fact. The way the Greeks tested the diameter of the earth, that is a historical fact. You can look that up.
I've seen videos of like 100-year-old people getting interviewed and saying they were taught flat earth as a kid.
Well, sure. I mean, my point is there have been competing ideas since medieval times, since Greek times. Like, there's been a back and forth for forever. This isn't the round earth is not some reactionary thing invented by the communists. People have been debating it for forever.
Well, since Shakespeare anyway.
Well, still, I mean, that proves the communists had nothing to do with it.
The Globe Theater. All the world's a stage.
I don't know what to make of that. I mean, even if you're right, my point still holds, but yes.
Yeah.
Maybe. Point is, people have thought it for a long time. There's been debates. So it's not intuitive that the earth would be flat. I mean, in my opinion, it would be more... When I was a kid, I didn't need somebody to tell me that the earth was round. I thought, well, the moon's round, sun's round, the earth's got to be round. I mean, we got to be living on a bunch of floating balls and stuff. I mean, that's what I thought when I was 6. I didn't need a school to tell me that.
I don't believe that at all.
Why not?
That you thought the earth was a globe when you were 6 because of what you saw in the sky?
Yes, because the sun and the moon were round. I thought the earth had to be round too.
And you just came up with that all by yourself.
I was a weird 6-year-old.
You're like, man, I must be flying through a vacuum.
No, I did not think of the vacuum of space. That didn't come to me. Anyway, no, what it was is I probably was in school, but what it was is I was, the first time I came across the idea of the flat earth theory, I saw this Columbus movie. It was a rented film about Columbus, and there was this bookworm is what they called it. It was some kind of creature that traveled with Columbus, like a Pokemon or something. And it was like they were like making fun of people believing that the earth was flat. And I heard that and I was like, why would anybody think the earth is flat? Moon's round and the sun's round. Why would you assume that it was anything else? But and I was a little kid and I saw that movie, so that's why I remember it. Because I remember I have a vision of this this bookworm thing. There's this scene where it like chews out the corners of the globe, because when they said the earth was flat in the cartoon, they had a globe kind of thing, but it was a square. They had like a cube instead of a sphere in this globe thing, and then the bookworm came out and chewed all the corners off. But
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. It was funny. But I remember seeing that scene.
Hardcore propaganda.
Well, yeah, but I saw that and I was thinking, why would anybody think it was flat anyway? I remember
Yeah,
having that
because it makes
thought.
you feel good when you agree with the thing. You're like, oh,
Maybe, maybe I'm just saying I'm not lying. That's when I had that thought, was watching that
right.
cartoon.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean, I think it's intuitive to assume the earth is round. I don't know why it would be. It seems like the earth being flat would be counterintuitive, at least to me.
I don't think so. I think that's your programming talking.
Maybe.
Because I mean, if you just,
But it's kind of pointless to debate
I
motive,
mean,
because I could just as easily say your disdain for science is talking.
sure.
I mean, who
But like
cares?
a culture that doesn't have science, do you think they'll assume we're on a globe?
I don't see why
Like
not. Like, I'm sorry, I honestly don't see why not. If
it
you're
doesn't make
looking up at the sky and everything in the sky is round, like, is it really inconceivable to think that whatever you're standing on would be round too?
yeah.
Why?
That's like me sitting in my room and looking at my light fixture in my ceiling and going, "Oh, there's a light bulb. That must be what I'm standing on."
What?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't think that's a good analogy, but
It's a
okay.
perfect analogy.
No, it isn't. Like, you got different shapes in the room. Like, you've got chairs
Yeah.
and you've got tables and you've got
Trees.
walls and you've got squares. But when you look up in the sky, everything is round.
No, it's not. We talked about this. I mean, maybe the moon is a disk,
Yeah,
but
from your
stars,
perspective,
when you zoom in,
stars, the sun, the moon, it's all round. Why would you not
remember,
think what you're standing on is round too? Like, I
remember
don't
when we
see how
talked
that's
about,
like,
yeah.
it may not be right, but it's intuitive. Like, I can see somebody assuming that. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of silly to, think that it's just all the result of propaganda.
I don't think so. Because you just need like a fundamental worldview, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's obviously the answer. But you
Well,
have to have that fundamental worldview first. Um, the so we talked about the square headlights on the truck
mm-hmm.
a mile away. It
Yeah.
looks like a circle.
Yeah.
So why would you assume the stars are circles?
Because nobody is going to assume that a square headlight or that a round. Nobody is going to assume that something they see that is circular is actually square from a distance. I'm talking about not what's correct, but what is intuitive. Is it intuitive to assume that something you're looking at is round? Or is it intuitive to assume that something you're looking at is square when you are seeing that object is round? You could be right about the headlight being square, but that's not intuitive. That's a counterintuitive truth.
Okay.
I'm saying that if everything in the sky is circular, it is intuitive.
But it's not. That's a preconceived
It looks
notion.
circular. From the perspective of somebody looking up at the night sky and seeing stars and the moon and the sun, all those objects look round from your perspective. So if everything you're looking at is round from your perspective, it is intuitive to say that whatever it is you're standing on, since you are surrounded by that object up there, it is intuitive to say, or by those objects up there, it is intuitive to say that you are standing on something that is round too. It is an intuitive assumption. Doesn't mean it's right, but it's intuitive.
Okay.
So my point being, the idea that the earth is round did not just come up in the last 100 years. It's been around for forever.
So it's intuitive for me to sit in my room and look up at a light bulb and say, that's what I'm standing on.
Not if you have other objects in the room.
Where?
Well, let's say you're sitting on
the
something.
ceiling?
Then you've got something shaped like a chair. Let's say you've
Okay,
got
so
a
a
drink
tree.
on a nightstand.
call
So
that
you
a
have this
tree.
object called a nightstand.
Okay, we'll call that a house.
What?
I'm trying to put the room outside.
You're trying to put the room outside.
Yeah. So you're saying I'm not on a light bulb because there's a chair in the room, right?
I'm saying that if there's other objects, if there's more than one object, and
Okay,
there's a
so if
bunch
you're
of various
outside,
objects inside an area, then it would be silly to assume to pick one object out at random and assume that's the object you're standing on.
okay, so if I'm outside on the ground and there's a tree next to me and a house next to me, and I look up at the sky at the sun and it's round, and I say that's what I'm standing on.
But it's not
Does
just
that
the
make
sun.
sense?
Yeah, I understand
Huh?
what you're saying, but it's not just the sun. You're talking about the sun and the moon and the stars and the fact that all of that is
Right.
completely surrounding you every night.
But what about the trees and all the other stuff that's near me?
Yeah, it's on
Why
the
would I
ground
assume
with
that the
you. There's
light-
a distinction between stuff that's on the ground and stuff that's in the air and it's above you.
Mm-hmm. Just like there's a distinction between my chair and my light fixture.
Yes, there is a distinction, but again, we are talking about what is intuitive. Is it really intuitive to say that the earth is flat? Maybe.
Yes.
Okay, maybe. I am just saying that it is also intuitive to say that the earth is round. And so both positions
saying-
have been around for a very long time.
You're arguing against yourself, though.
You don't even know what I'm arguing. I just stated what I'm arguing. I'm saying both
You s-
positions are intuitive, so they've been around for forever. That's
You
all
said
I'm
it's
saying.
intuitive. You said it's intuitive
Yes.
to look up at the circles in the sky and assume that's what you're standing on, but it's not intuitive for me to do that in my bedroom.
Not when you can like look down and see that you're not standing on it. We're
Right.
talking about scale. Like you assume
okay.
there's an entire giant floating body in space or whatever, or in the firmament or whatever. You assume there's something above you floating and there's a bunch of stuff floating. Then maybe you're standing on something that's floating too. And maybe that thing that's floating is round. I'm just saying both positions are intuitive.
I don't
And so
think
the
it's intuitive.
debate's been around for forever. And even if this argument doesn't work, there's like historical documents showing that people were proposing the idea that the earth is round.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
But
that's
see,
all
to
I'm
me,
saying.
it's
It's an old argument. That's my
the-
only point.
The globe Earth side is only intuitive if you have that programming. Like it's not
No,
intuitive.
it's not. And what programming? You're talking about the 1950s programming, right? Or the idea that came up
Sure.
alongside scientism, whenever that began. Well, how can that argument hold if the Greeks were also arguing that the earth was round?
Well,
What kind of
you could-
programming is that? We're talking about, I'm saying it's intuition because it's been around since the beginning of written history. You're saying that it's only intuitive because of programming, but you're only referring to programming that's been around for about 100 years.
You don't think they rewrite history all the time?
It's a first-hand source. It's hard to imagine that they would be like rewriting history. So they made up a first-hand source of a random Greek guy that's been around and acknowledged since the 1800s. They just came up with that
Aristophanes?
from 100 years.
Yeah. I don't believe Aristophanes was a real person, no.
Okay. You're talking about a lot of moving parts then. So there was this
What do you
grand, let's see if I understand it. So there's this grand conspiracy to prove to everyone that the earth is round. Why?
To make you feel trapped and scared. So they're always like, oh, the comet's going to hit blah, 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 and blah, 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 and we could blow up at any minute, and we're running out of time, and the universe is ever expanding, and you're flying through space, and
They could say all the
It's
same
all-
stuff of a
it's all
flat earth,
fear.
though.
it's all fear shit.
But they could say the same stuff of a flat earth, though.
No, they couldn't. What do you mean?
Yeah, they could. Comets hit, meteors hit before, the modern day or whatever. They could just come up with some other reason why those things are slamming onto the planet. They didn't need to come up with the earth being round. They could
I'm
say
not saying
Zeus
they
got
did.
mad
I'm
at
just-
us and chucked something at us. I'm confused as to
I'm
what's
just
so
saying-
important about why would they, when there's already so much paganism and so much history of the different ideas, different ways to scare people. Why would they need to make the earth round? Like what's specifically compelling? Like I do think there is some logic to people covering stuff up to spread certain ideas. Evolution, for example, it is a direct refutation of Paley's natural theology. So Paley came up with the idea of the watchmaker god.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of this idea that was born out of the Enlightenment. It was where we get kind of the concept of natural rights in the same ways there are laws guiding nature, there are laws guiding men, and if we behave in conformity to those laws, society will benefit. It's this
Sounds
kind of
beautiful.
Yeah, so it's this idea, it's Paley's natural theology. Well, the authoritarians, the feudalists, they couldn't have that. Like, you can't have God creating natural laws that people must abide by, because then you can't have arbitrary rules, people that people are making up, for whatever reason. So they needed to get rid of natural theology. They needed to get rid of that foundational explanation for reality. So they invented evolution as a means to justify the various crap that they're doing and to directly refute Paley. So I can see why they did that with evolution, because there's a specific thing they were trying to refute in the past.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're trying to refute with the round earth.
Well, their evolution is like, oh, you're here by chance, you're an accident, all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the Paley's deal is you're special, you have a creator, God loves you. He put you here for a reason. There's laws that he gave you to live by.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that want to control us are going to want to erase that, obviously. So
Yeah.
the globe is all about making you feel afraid and like you're an accident, like you're spinning through space, and like, you know what I'm saying? It's the same kind of behavior.
I don't know if you could get there with or at least at the very least, it's not as compelling with a round globe. I've never felt particularly
No, it is, because
afraid
every
or isolated
piece of
because
note,
the Earth is round. I mean, that's never like depressed me.
No, but every piece of news that comes out of NASA or any other space program is like frightening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a way to manipulate people, in my opinion.
I do agree with you that NASA is frightening. They do intentionally hype things up to scare the crap out of people.
I'm going to mention this every time it comes up. NASA is to deceive in Hebrew.
Why is it like significant that it's like? Is there something significant about it being in Hebrew? Is this like one of those anti-Jew things, or is this just like it just a coincidence that it means lie or whatever?
I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I think it's the revelation of method, or whatever you want to call that.
Revelation of method. So who came up with this term? Who called it NASA?
I don't know. Warner von Braun was the head of the program when they first started, and he was a Nazi.
Well, I don't know who headed it up either, so I don't know. Yeah, he was a Nazi. That's true. I don't know why he would call it lie, though.
Do you know about his gravestone?
Mm-mm.
His gravestone has a Psalm 119. It says, I think that's right. I might be wrong. It says, the firmament declareth the glory of God, or something like that.
Mm.
And no, the firmament declareth God's handiwork. Something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
But I think, honestly, man, I think the NASA program is just the old Cyrus? No, not Cyrus. What's his name? ISIS's big dude. The great hunter.
Dude, I don't know, unfortunately.
What's his name? I'm blanking on it.
Yeah, me too. I couldn't tell you.
But like they built this tower, the Tower of Babel, to get through the firmament, right? To defeat God and all that.
There's some debate. Yeah, I mean, in the story, yes, essentially, yes. Right.
So to me, NASA is just that program again, and they've been trying to blow holes in the firmament forever. But.
So you think they're trying to punch a hole in the firmament?
Yeah.
Can we? Maybe this is something for the next video. Can we talk more about this idea of like there not being space and there being a firmament instead? I mean, I feel like the flat Earth conversation versus the firmament conversation are like two different things. Because
Yeah,
from my
kinda.
maybe from my limited way of thinking, the Earth could still be around and there be a firmament. You know, I mean, I just don't. I don't know. But
Yeah. So from what I understand, I guess my view of the firmament. So there's, I guess it's filled with water that is different. It's like natural, not natural water, source water, I think is what they call it.
okay,
And it's like super hydrophobic. There's no minerals in it. Not hydrophobic. What's the word for it? Like mercury.
oh, I don't know, dude.
It's a superfluid. That's what it is. So the water in the firmament is a superfluid, and it's connected to the great deep and all that.
What's the Great
You know.
Deep?
It's in Hebrew cosmology. It's just like the oceans below, where the
Okay.
pillars are that hold the earth up.
Okay.
So the firmament it's cold around the edges, right? Because the sun's light can't reach it because the sun's at the equator.
Okay.
So the firmament would start out there on the edge, and the superfluid freezes at the bottom, right?
Okay.
So it's kind of what holds it up, I guess. I don't know. But it freezes at the bottom and comes up slowly, and being a superfluid, it has no friction. So the stars, that's what allows the stars to freely keep their rotation or whatever you want to call it.
So the stars are like in the superfluid.
Yeah.
And so let me see if I understand this. So the idea is that the firmament is basically a layer of water above the atmosphere, and the sun and the moon and the stars, are they floating in this firmament? Like they're just kind of
I
free?
assume
Like,
so.
okay.
They're fixed in their positions. I
Yeah.
don't really know how that works. I'm sure it has something to do with electricity. That's
I mean, I have no idea.
kind of how I
hadn't
see
heard
the
that
stars,
before,
honestly.
so. Hmm.
Huh?
I hadn't heard that before, so
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah. I kind of see the stars like a big circuit board,
Okay.
and they reflect what's going on down here, but that's just like the energetic version of it.
So what do you think it means by like the signs and the seasons? Like, are we to tell the future with them, or are we gonna?
Well, you want to plant your seeds,
Okay.
spring.
Okay. So the stars are kind of like an almanac of sorts.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
That gets into horoscope stuff, which, but
I wouldn't even
it's
know where
just
to
like
begin with that.
it's levels of detail. Like the two big luminaries. They tell us. You can get in the Farmer's Almanac and figure that out,
Mm-hmm.
because they tell us signs and seasons for crops and whatever. That's the sun and the moon, and the little ones, the stars, are more energetic, and they just kind of determine what stories take place when.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know how that all works. I always felt like, the three wise men following that specific star to Christ. I always felt like that had some tie-in of what was meant in Genesis 1, but I don't know.
Genesis 1.
When it talks about the stars being fixed in place for the signs and the seasons.
Oh yeah.
Like I feel I've always wondered if maybe the wise men understood that in a way that we don't, and that's how they were able to identify the star that led them to Christ.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
there was some kind of, I don't know, way to understand those things that maybe we don't have today or something like that.
There's people that understand it. It's just language. It's a different language.
I wonder what kind of language that would
If
be.
you stare up at the stars for long enough, you're going to start to see patterns and stuff and understand how they correlate to the things that are going on here.
You mean like constellations?
Yeah. Yeah, like in 2000, was that 2020 when there was like a red star and it ate another star. You know what I'm talking about? Like the dragon ate a star. You don't remember that? It's a big deal. It's just a big energy shift.
Is that why this timeline is so weird now?
Yeah, I think so.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, there's like a changing of the guard in the stars, and it has to happen here.
Well, this timeline certainly stinks, and I don't like it. But anyway.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Well, gentlemen, it's been past 2 hours. I
Nice.
think we ought to wrap it up. So, Trevor,
Yo,
final thoughts.
thank you for watching
Okay.
Indeed. If you
and
watch this,
listening.
I appreciate you.
If you've made it this far, you are a champ.
Yeah. So, Cody, what do you got? You got anything to say?
I don't think so, man. I had a great time.
I
This
did
has been
too.
fun. I like the live stream thing.
Yeah. We got it right the second time around.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll call it good then. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Peace, y'all.
Thank you. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Faith, Fiction, and Folklore. If you did, we would love it if you would subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Rumble. We can also be found on X, Instagram, and Facebook. And we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Thank you again very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.